My name is Jason Joel, and I'm the product manager for VMware Workstation, VMware Player, and VMware Ace. And this is Rajat Goel, my counterpart from the R&D department.
How's it going, everybody?
So we'd like to welcome you guys here to our talk about the future of VMware Workstation. We are also going to interlace into that some of the plans we have to make building cloud applications and building development for the cloud into Workstation as part of the talk. But in order to do that, we first have to subject you to a disclaimer slide that our lawyers make you read, sign off on, and swear by. And it basically means that anything we're showing you here today, we're not committed to deliver under any circumstances. We're not even supposed to talk about, but we're going to do it anyway. And that you can't hold us accountable to it in any sort of financial deals or obligations. So that gives us free rein to have some fun, show us some cool things that we have going on in the lab. We are showing some things that are going to be very, very bleeding edge. So if they crash, that's my disclaimer for Rajat. But also give you an idea of kind of what we have in our labs, what we have in mind for the future of this product, and want to run it by you and have an opportunity to have you give us some feedback on what you think of what we're doing. So to start out with, I did want to do a very brief recap of what we've included in our recent Workstation release, the 7.1 release. One thing we've been focusing on is improving and enhancing our platform, the virtualization platform that Workstation runs under, and added 8-way SMP support, 2 terabyte disk support for the new Nehalem processors, the iCore i7s, i5s, i3s, and taking advantage of Intel's encryption standard instructions to do some of our encryption. And why I'm bringing this up is it really shows you that we're beefing up the hardware that we're running on. And as we get into the presentation, you'll understand what's driving some of this. We also enhanced our graphics. As a company last year, we showed you that we were one of the first products running and supporting the Aero capabilities. We continue to lead the industry with our graphics platform, and we are investing more and more heavily. We added OpenGL 2.1 support for Windows and enhanced the performance. We're very laser focused on the performance of our graphics stack. One thing that we're going to briefly show here is another area that we enhanced, which is our XP mode support. We have many customers who are running XP mode, exploring Windows 7, trying to figure out how to deploy Windows 7, and looking for a better alternative. And we're pretty happy and proud with what we've enabled and embedded in our solution, in Player in particular as well, giving you some capabilities above and beyond what XP mode offers. Finally, a couple other things. OVF tool we've integrated with 7.1. We're finally embracing the open standard and making it easier to move VMs from your desktop to another virtual environment, including ESX, just by exporting and importing the product. Now, in this release, OVF tool, it is actually the latest and greatest version from VMware that was shipped with Workstation. But the tool itself is a command line tool, and it's not embedded yet. Software updates. I think we are the last product on the planet that doesn't update itself. Finally, we've covered that. Makes it easier for your deployments and maintain the versions to keep up with the latest builds and maintenance releases, which, as I get in further to the presentation, will show you is very important from our customers since many of you are testing the latest and greatest operating systems. So having the updates from us and the patches and the tools builds that you need, this should make it a lot easier. And then finally, what I keep alluding to is the User Experience Improvement Program. And this is something that you've seen in many other products that gathers data for us, helps us aggregate information about how people are using our product, and also is driving some of our development. So we will briefly go into some of that. You want to start with the quick XP mode demo?
Sure. So one thing XP mode had over Workstation 7.0 was the ability to launch programs in a VM directly from the host. That's something that we were lacking on the Workstation side. So we decided to sort of go ahead and solve that, but even build further on that. And let me demo it. So I've got here Workstation running with the XP VM in Unity. I've already created a shortcut, if you can see on the desktop, for pinball, because I love playing pinball and it's not on Windows 7. So this pinball app is installed in Windows XP. I'll double click on it. Wait for a bit. I don't know if I actually double click.
Really double click? There you go.
There we go. And there we go. It launches directly into Unity. And now I'm off playing pinball. There we go. It's up and running. So this is all nice and great, but now that I've got Pinball running, I don't want to double click on my desktop every single time, so I'll just go ahead and pin it to my taskbar, close it, and now it is permanently there as as a shortcut to my VM. So even if my VM is powered on, powered off, does not matter. I can just click on this icon here. It will launch the VM, start up Pinball, any application I want within the VM, and there I go. So furthermore, now that I have my VM running, the one big limitation XP Mode had was A, it had a predefined set of applications that would show up in the host, and B, they would go in a predefined location in the start menu. We are not too happy about that limitation. So I'm just going to take, I don't know, what looks good here. Maybe the, let's see, what do I normally use quite a bit? Maybe the volume control?
Yeah, we got to use that all the time.
All right, let me drag that to my desktop. Oops, sorry, I missed that. Sorry, my mouse is going over the edge. My bad. There we go. And now I've got my volume control.
I think one of the major points about this is you can deploy your applications nested inside of a VM, put access to it for your users anywhere on the system. You can simply drag and drop, and it doesn't have to be an application you've installed. It can be system apps that are shipped with the product. It can be anything that is available in the guest. All right. So I keep alluding to the UEIP results, and this is short for User Experience Improvement Program. Just to be a little more clear on what that is if you're running Workstation, you have the option to opt in to send us some data about how you're using our product. There is no personal information being collected. I tried to get license keys to see how many people were stealing copies of my product, but my legal team said that was too much. So we simply took to basically how the product's configured, what VMs people are running, what guests they're running. And we were delighted with the results. We have hundreds of thousands of people reporting this right now with Workstation 7.1. Some of the data we've come up with is more than 2 million VMs were powered on so far this month, the month of August. And we're just tracking which guests those are. 3,500 different guests. Now, I admit this is every flavor of Windows, from Ultimate down to Home Basic is a different guest. But it shows you kind of the breadth and the depth of the different guests that we run and what our customers are doing with this. So just to give you an idea, some of the most popular host operating systems, which is the base operating system that Workstation is running on, Windows 7 64-bit has got 36% of the market already. Windows XP has got 25% of the market, and then the next 20% is Windows 7 32-bit. So already more than 50% of our customers are running Windows 7. You can see Vista comes in at a surprising 4%, with Ubuntu at its heels with 3%. So don't let the percentages fool you. It is still tens of thousands of users, so at 3 and 4%. So it's still a significant number, but you can tell that Vista is barely keeping ahead of Ubuntu. And then the most frequent guests run, XP is still our most popular guest by far, which is very surprising to us and kind of interesting. It means we have to continue to invest in our XP drivers and XP graphics support. But the more interesting part of it is 61% is other. So we have a huge long tail of these guests that people are running. You'd be surprised how often Windows 3.1 still pops up and operating systems like that we sometimes plan to kill, and then you see data like that that says our customers use Workstation for older OSs. So some of the other data that we've collected that was interesting is the RAM distribution. You can see that over 20% of our users have more than 4 gigs of memory on their system. So people are running this Workstation on very beefy systems. And that's replicated with the processor distribution information that we have. About, 23% are on Conroe or Nehalem, which is Xeon processors, or the iCore processors already. So a significant percentages have power to burn, just incredible horsepower. So we kind of want to take advantage of that. So that brings us into what are we kind of working on in the future. So that's stats, history. We kind of breezed through that quickly because that's not what we're here to talk about, but thought you might find it interesting. One audience that keeps resonating with us and VMware is very focused on is our developer audience and building tools and building our ecosystem for developers. We have previously built plugins to Eclipse and plugins to Visual Studio. One thing that's been lacking for a long time is the Visual Studio 2010 plugin. If you're on our forums, I'm getting burned on that subject hourly, that it's not out yet. We did have a bug with Microsoft we worked through. So we're imminently about to release something to plug into Visual Studio, so your C++ apps can inject right into Workstation. But a more important one we're broadening is we built a partnership with Zend, so that all the developers building enterprise applications or cloud-based applications in PHP can do similar functionality. And Zend really has been leading the industry and pushing the market a little bit with their Zen Studio and Zen Server. So they've built an integration to Zen Studio, which we're going to show you, that actually provides and provides a VM that runs Zen Server in it. And Rajat's going to show you how easily it makes it to run and build enterprise class systems.
So we already have integration with Eclipse for C++ and Java. And as Jason mentioned, we're working with Zen on building integration for PHP apps. As you can see, I have Zen Studio running here. I've got a PHP app deployed on Zen Studio. Now my basic workflow for PHP apps would be write a PHP app, deploy it on the host with Zen Server, test it out, fix any bugs, make sure you have multiple environments where you can test it out. Well, guess what? Now you need to have multiple hosts anytime you need to have multiple environments to test it on. But with Workstation, we can do it easily with the support of running multiple VMs at the same time. So here I've got a PHP app. I've got VMware Workstation integration built in with the help of the Zen guys. I can start a new virtual machine connection. I can define what virtual machine name, what virtual machine it is, the connection name, description, et cetera, et cetera. With this PHP app, I have defined these things already. So I've got a Zen server VM running already. So here are the specifics. I'll show you the VM. VM is a basic Ubuntu VM, just running Zen server, hosting the Zen services. So now that I've got this app written, what I want to do is, when I sort of run the app, I want to dynamically deploy the app in the VM, not on the host, in the VM where the server is running. So I'll go ahead and, oops.
Cross our fingers.
Yeah, there's a bug in here. I'll try and restart it, see if that works.
I warned you, bleeding edge. It's been a long weekend, as always.
Okay, so when I bring up run, I get three options. PHP, the option I want to select obviously is PHP application on VM. I'll go ahead and select that. It will ask me for the user ID and password for the VM itself. It will automatically log me inside the VM, so I'll go ahead and type the password. As you can see, it's communicating with the virtual machine. Now the virtual machine's all booted up. It's got the app deployed. It's asking me for the URL. So that's the URL to the PHP app. And boom, there you go. There is the PHP app being rendered on the VM and coming up on the host itself. So I can go ahead and debug it right here, make any modifications I need to make, fix it, and then redeploy it in the VM. It's a good testing environment. You can deploy it on multiple guest OS types, as I mentioned. It works out really well, just like our Java and C++ plugins.
All right. So beyond that developer focus, one question that's been coming up a lot lately, and that I, as the Workstation product manager in particular, gets asked almost weekly, if not daily, is what's the future of this Type 2 hypervisor stuff? Well, I'm here to proudly report that the death and the reports of the death of the Type 2 hypervisor are very greatly exaggerated. Famous quote, heard it before recently, especially if you're in Silicon Valley. We are investing very heavily in Workstation and in our labs doing some interesting things about focusing on the Type 2 hypervisor market. And a lot of people think we're crazy and want to know why. So one thing, Workstation sales and player downloads continue to grow strong. We're very happy about that, very proud of it. I'm delighted as the Workstation product manager. Everybody else here is talking about all of our other products, but mine has been around for over 10 years, and I've still got growth that is worth celebrating. VMware Server is a product that a lot of people are downloading still. Significant number of people are downloading from our product, from our website. And we did a survey that said a percentage of servers virtualized using Type 2 hypervisors is still greater than 20%. Now, as VMware, we're recommending you go to Type 1 hypervisors, that's your better performance, and then you get all the better scalability and all the benefits of Type 1. But as the Workstation product manager, there are many good reasons why you'd run Type 2 hypervisors. And some of them include not dedicating hardware to it. You can run it on your laptop and then also do other things, gaming, et cetera, on your laptop. Broad hardware control list. You don't have to, anything we can run, Windows or Linux, can run a Type 2 hypervisor from us. Easy to install and configure. I mean, it's an app, right? Sometimes simpler. Although VMware has the vCloud Express or a vSphere Express package that's making it even easier, and VMware Go to make it even easier to install and set up ESX, but Workstation's still a little easier. And then perceived price difference. A lot of people think Type 2 hypervisors are a lot cheaper than Type 1. Well, reality is ESX is free. Workstation I do charge $189 for. So the perception's wrong there, but I still benefit from it. So now, with that in mind, we do have a lot of people trying to run Workstation as a server. If you're following the server market closely, you know server doesn't quite run Windows 7 yet. So Workstation does. Did last year, the day Windows 7 launched, we supported it. We have the graphics stack. We have the benefits and features, but Workstation today runs in the user's context. And so it doesn't have the ability to start up automatically. A lot of you have written scripts and come up with hacks and ways to get this to work. There are a lot of websites and forums that tell you how to start the VMware.exe or our service as a service, but that has security holes and serious problems with it that we don't want to really recommend and can't recommend. But in our labs, we're working on some things, including VMware Host D with Workstation. We'd like to try to provide that. Again, no promises, can't hold me to it, but we're trying. It would run securely as a service, allow VMs to run under Host D, or currently, and there's reasons for that, is that we have some cool features like Unity and XP mode that don't run under Host D yet, but so we'll give you those options. Auto start the VMs on system boot, show the system monitor and server operations, and adding users and groups and roles. And we think that that will allow people who are trying to run Workstation in production, which we have quite a few customers who are OEMing Workstation or enhancing it to run every day underneath their desk because they depend on it, really give them a new platform to set up and configure and grow Workstation with. So how does this relate to cloud development? I promise you there's something cloud related here. So if you can set up a server, a Type 2 hypervisor, and run all your code in there and run it as kind of a mini server underneath your desk, virtualized environment, you can do what we did last year, which was run vSphere in it. Last year we demoed running vSphere with nested VMs, and we even vMotioned between two VMs. Not really designed for production use, but very cool. A lot of people didn't think we could do it. We didn't think we could do it last year, but we pulled it off. You can still do it this year. It should work even better. And we've enhanced our ability to do nested VMs, et cetera. But it gives you a great environment for training, education, demo purposes. But you could also run your own apps there. And you can set up your own mini cloud right there underneath your desk before you push it into one of the cloud providers, preferably one of ours. But before you put it in the cloud providers, and hopefully there's not too many of them here, but you wouldn't have to pay for cycle time while you're debugging your app. You could do it right underneath your desk and then move it up into the place where you actually pay for either CPU cycles or network traffic or whatever the relationship is and service level agreements are. So that capability, we're hoping people will use Workstation for more and more. So the theme behind our development, for those of you familiar might actually appreciate this theme, is a little bit about moving beyond the virtual box. So for Workstation, everybody's considered us running on a laptop, running on a desktop, running underneath the desk. We'd like Workstation to be a little bit bigger. So if you run Workstation underneath your desk or underneath your friend's desk in the server mode, you're going to want some sort of remote management of that because you don't want to crawl underneath the desk every time or go into the data center. So moving VMs between a copy of Workstation and another version of Workstation is something we're working on. Remote management, editing VM settings, and executing power operations. Remote console operations, being able to see your window of that VM is all being worked on. And then remote VIX support. So if you write scripts on your local machine, they can be executed and run against the VM running in the other room. We think are all very cool features. And that brings us to the next demo.
All right. Here we go. So, as everybody can see, this is the basic VMware Workstation interface that everybody is familiar with. We've got our local VMs sitting on our box. Everything looks good. Now, as Jason mentioned, I want to be able to connect to my ESX VMs also. So if you've got an ESX box...
I just said Workstation. What do you mean ESX?
You just said Workstation.
I just said we can connect to Workstation.
No, but I do want to connect to ESX VMs. I mean, what's the point of just connecting to local VMs? You said
if we can do Workstation, it would be nice to do ESX.
That's the whole point. Move beyond the virtual box.
Nice. Wow.
All right. We've got a ESX box right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's running Workstation, but ESX is loaded.
We've got some extra UI here that most of you have probably never seen. I think one of them is the IP address to the ESX box.
Yeah?
Let me see what I can do.
It's not really going to work.
I don't know. I don't know what the developers have been doing in their past free time. So let's see if we can make it work.
Don't they work for you?
Presumably. All right. I'm going to try and connect to this box. And boom, we got remote inventories. We've got 2 VMs running on the ESX box. I've got a Ubuntu 10.04 VM.
Dude, that's a really ugly UI.
But I want to, we're still working on it. We'll improve it before we release. Now I want to see a remote console to the VM that's running on my ESX box. So I've got a Windows XP VM. There we go. I can look into my Windows XP VM. I can perform operations on it. And I have remote VM connectivity. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, but this is a Workstation talk. I mean, how long have you been using Workstation?
Well, what do you do on Workstation? You edit VM settings?
Yeah.
You look at VM settings? Well, we can do that too for remote VMs.
Well, that's cool. But again, isn't this a Workstation presentation? I mean, don't you have hundreds of VMs that you've had around using Workstation? What good does this ESX connectivity do for us?
That's true. I mean, you did mention in our UEIP program that there are still people using Windows 3.1 VMs
Yeah.
in Workstation.
Well, it would be awfully nice if I could put those somewhere a little bit more performant and secure and faster and et cetera. How would I do something like that?
Did you notice that I was running the Linux version of Workstation? Do you know that that was the first version of Workstation we ever released?
I do know that and did notice.
And I had it just so happens that I have a mission-critical Windows 3.1 VM lying.
Exactly.
Lying around.
We all have mission critical.
I've been wanting to push that to my ESX box because,
That's what everybody else in the room wants to do.
more computing power, more security.
Okay, stop talking. Let's see it. How do I do that?
All right. What about if I just drag it and drop it to my ESX box?
No way.
Oops. That's a bug. We're working on it.
All right, is that my cue? I'm going to try again.
We're going to try again. That was planned. Let's try that again.
Oh,
no.
Okay. What you guys are missing is a really cool progress bar. And the successful upload of the VM to ESX. So we'll give them a chance to try it while I come back to. Oh, did it go? Did I just? Oh, here it goes. There it goes.
There we go.
There it goes.
It didn't want Windows 3.1 for some reason, but I'll upload the Windows XP instead.
Okay.
And there we go. It'll be on the ESX box very shortly. And while it's uploading, I can go ahead and do other tasks. I can go edit my VM settings. I can go disconnect, wait for the upload to finish.
Okay. All right. But, ESX is cool. But we're here at VMworld. And everybody here is running some more than just one little ESX box underneath the desk. I mean, that's just a cool demo for us. So how many of you guys have vSphere up and running? VC up and running? You think Rajat can actually get this to connect to VC as well? I mean, a workstation connection to VC kind of blows out of proportion the idea of running a local machine. It really would define moving beyond the virtual box. And something that I don't think anybody else could offer and deliver to you. So, Rajat, can you offer and deliver it to us?
I can try. I don't know if there are any bugs. Pretty sure this will work. There we go.
Yeah.
We've got our VC demo data center, which is where we're at. We've got our ESX box, which is right here. And we've got the new Windows XP VM there too, that I just uploaded. Thank you.
All right. Close enough to working. Thank you. All right. So that brings us back to what did we just see? Just to recap that a little bit. What we're working on, again, no promises, no dates. Can't ask me about dates. Workstation connecting to Workstation. Workstation connecting to ESX. Workstation connecting to VC. Workstation connecting to vCloud. I can't talk any more about that. Wait till you see a couple more presentations this week and then come ask. And how about EC2? Ooh. Well, not quite, but there are companies out there that allow you to take Workstation VMs and move them into EC2 very easily. So CloudSwitch is one of them. We played with it a little bit, and I'm not here to recommend them or anything, just simply saying that it works, and it is, again, it furthers our story that other companies are building towards the ecosystem of enhancing Workstation and enabling you guys to build applications locally under your desk and then move them into the cloud. All right, we ready? Now, this cloud stuff is pretty cool, okay? But we don't all have connectivity everywhere all the time. I know. We're all traveling all the time. It's kind of pervasive around the Silicon Valley, but, you know, except for Apple demos, then it kind of crashes. But otherwise, we would kind of like to enhance another feature is how great would it be if I can take my VM and just put it in my pocket? Now, could you do something like that? And just in case I don't have connectivity, I want my VM with me all the time.
You want to put it on something like this?
That would do. That would be very cool.
Just want to carry it along with you all the time?
That would be excellent. How do I do that?
Let me see if I can plug this sucker in. I've got a XP VM running here.
You want? Yep.
Maybe I can export it to a removable disk.
Cool.
Brings up the device. Let me go ahead and export it. Oh, done already.
Wow.
All right. That was
no
quick.
smoke and mirrors there, folks. None whatsoever. Martha Stewart's your middle name here.
All right, let me take this after it's exported, plug it into my laptop over here that somebody lent it to me.
And what you're seeing here is a laptop screen. So you have to look very carefully. It's the best we can do since you'll see what we're about to do. And
that's my hand.
There we go. And so he's powering on the laptop right now. And if all goes well, you should see in the upper corner, that's not going well. There we go. If you read that text up there very slightly, it says booting VM from USB drive. So if you're familiar with our Pocket VM or Pocket Ace capabilities, we are working on enhancing it. One of the biggest feedbacks we've had about Pocket Ace is you actually have to install Player on the host system that you're targeting, and that causes some issues if you don't have admin privileges on that box. So in our labs, we've been working on a little bit, taking as much Player code as we can and kind of a Linux distribution and shoehorning it together, borrowing some code from the rest of the company, because we would really like to be able to deliver a bootable thumb drive. We've had quite a few partners come to us and say this would be the coolest thing since sliced bread, that you can carry this around in your pocket, plug it in anywhere. I've got a very large bounty out if our developers can figure out how to plug it into a Windows machine or a Mac, but we're working on that. That one's a little farther off. It's going to cost me a pretty penny, but I would really like it. So what you're seeing here is Windows 7 actually booting up off the thumb drive, completely off the thumb drive. The only thing we're using on the laptop is, well, the processor, the memory, no storage. No. So processor and memory, video card, display, but wireless card. We do have wireless networking working. But we are not actually loading or running anything off the hard drive of that machine. Everything is contained on that USB device. And why we think this is interesting and exciting is, one, the device we have, admittedly, not only was smoke and mirrors to put it on that device, is the fastest device on the planet. It's a solid-state drive device embedded in that USB stick. which we think are going to become more popular and just faster and faster. And then this year, we're really expecting USB 3.0 to become prevalent in the market. And that has 10 times the throughput rate of current USB 2.0. So between the two of them, making that available, we think this is a viable option and would like to have a product in the market that we can actually offer and have people play with and explore. You can see it's up and running already. This is running off a USB 2.0 port. So there's no ports out yet that you can boot off of for USB 3.0. So we think it's very functional as is today. We've got a lot of work and polish to do, and probably in our testing, our beta testing, if it sees the light of day, you'll give us some feedback about systems it doesn't quite work on yet, but that's our goal, is kind of rough out the edges. But we think that this is a very compelling market, especially if you're hyper concerned about security. We're not quite going down that path yet. We're a long way from a secure solution, but we're heading that way. It's not having your machines left behind, or if you put it on like an iron key device or something like that where you control the security, you have some options. But also cheap deployments. A lot of customers of ours are using Player to give out to employee-owned IT markets, or like real estate agents or insurance agents where everybody works from their home, and they don't want to pay for new laptops for everybody. So if they can just send out a USB drive with this image on it, it is something that they can get away from and run very effectively. There are a lot of corner cases, graphics, you'll see no arrow, stuff like that is very limited still, and we will see what we can do on working on that. But as it stands, we think it's a pretty neat product, and we're kind of looking forward to having it in your hands and giving us some feedback about it. Probably is very experimental for a while. So with that said, I think we're looking at wrapping up here and opening up the floor for questions.
The one thing I wanted to point out while Jason was talking was I connected to the VMworld wireless network, and I've got internet working on the laptop itself, as you can see.
So, any questions from the audience? We're open for that. Yes? Right now, we can't even export a VM. That was smoke and mirrors, but theoretically we could. The question was, can we export multiple VMs to the stick and boot from it? Yes, in our labs we've done it, but again, we're trying to get one VM to work, and that's what our primary focus is. But it's just VMs in the file system on the device. Frankly, the thing we don't have is the UI to let you select, but that's cheap and easy to do, but not something we're planning to productize right away. Absolutely, any USB device. Yep. It depends on how you have it configured, but generally no. Our goal is to lock the host out entirely. It is booting up. There is no host OS running there. The host OS is, well, it's running from the stick, but our goal is to lock that out and not let anybody modify, tweak, or configure it. We have tried to expose things like wireless settings to the guest, so you don't need to choose your wireless NIC card or anything from the host and bridge through. So, other questions? Yes?
Would you be able to expand that to an eSATA connection?
Would you be able to expand that to an eSATA connection?
Use an eSATA external drive instead of USB?
No. I don't know why, but he says no. Seems like you should, but what do I know? I'm just the product manager. Other questions? Yes?
It would be interesting if there was a way to just have this self-contained environment from the host that you actually install the application, reboot the host, and have it come in that you can leverage more resources for virtualization or anything like that.
That would be called Player. Just fire up the host, put a command line to start up the guest. If you have a full host operating system, we'd recommend you just use Player.
So your question was, why don't you just boot the VM from the host instead?
Well, because I like the idea of this because, we run into problems where our sales guys have laptops that are older. They don't have a ton of resources by the time you boot Windows and then want to boot the guest VM, it slows it down quite a bit. But with this lightweight Linux boot, then you have a VM running over the resources available from the VM. But we wouldn't necessarily need it on a flash drive, just the ability to say, okay,
boot into this.
Reboot and boot into this.
Like, it's not something we're setting up, but you might be able to set up a second partition and boot off that partition with it somehow. So, yes?
When you move the workstation to ESX, is that going to convert, or is it just a copy, or does it have to be ESXi built? Or?
I think all of the above. You want to answer?
Right. So the question was, when you move move a workstation VM to ESX, is it a convert? Is it a copy? Is it what was the follow-up?
Close enough.
Right. So there are some difference in the format between local VMs and VMs that live on ESX. So there is a conversion step that happens. There is a conversion step that happens during the process, but it's fairly painless.
it's seamless to the user.
Right. The user does not have to know anything about the conversion details.
Yes.
Doing that conversion, do you get to have the options of taking out your VM options, like snapshot, ask on shutdown and stuff like that? Because we don't have that in the ESX environment.
So the question is, can you take out certain options from a workstation VM before uploading the VM? So absolutely, you can. It's not built in. It's still a work in progress, but you can either clone the VM and take out. If you don't want to mess with the local VM, clone the VM, take out all the snapshots, delete them in case you don't want that space to be bloated on ESX, et cetera, et cetera. Or once it gets up to ESX, again, use the workstation UI to deal with the snapshots on the ESX VM.
And one other question: does the VM have to be down or shut off before you do the conversion?
The question was, does the VM have to be shut down before the conversion/upload happens? Yes, it does.
But if you want vMotion between Workstation and ESX, let us know. It's a little bit of a stretch. I have a hard time arguing to my execs why I need that. But hey, more we hear from you, the better chance we got. Yeah.
So on your USB stick, what OS did it boot prior to running Workstation?
A version of Ubuntu that's stripped down.
Okay.
The question was, what OS did it boot prior to booting Windows 7 on the USB stick? What OS was it using? It was a stripped down version of Ubuntu.
Yeah.
Are all of the ACE controls still there for being able to expire the VM and boot mount sticks?
Not in that one. That one we've just got a lightweight player running. So it's something we're exploring, but currently it's just plain Jane vanilla VM. So you had another follow on. I think I cut you off.
Yes, but I forgot.
Yeah.
So you demoed connecting to Virtual Center Workstation. From Virtual Center back to Workstation?
That's a good question. The question was, can you connect? You demoed connecting from Workstation to Virtual Center. Can you connect from Virtual Center to Workstation? If you noticed, one of the slides on Jason's talk was running host D on Workstation. So good question.
Yeah, certainly the Virtual Center team is not excited about connecting to Workstation yet, but we keep telling them, think about distributed computing, millions of Workstation machines. That's a virtual cloud, right? Hey, I got to spin a lot to try to get their attention. But so it might work. They certainly aren't going to spend any time testing it, that side of the company. We might, but right now we're just trying to get you off of your box and into the cloud. That's our focus. Yeah.
You do the work to make some of this stuff interoperable with some of the other companies, like Zen Server and Microsoft and all that, for consultants who don't have control over the environment, so kind of
Nope. But as the Workstation product manager, honestly, working with some of our competitor... Oh, sorry. Thank you. You asked if we're planning to work on integration to other providers and source providers. I mean, I did show EC2 up there and showing you how CloudSwitch can get you there. We are not actively working on supporting that, but as the Workstation product manager, I get asked all the time because my users are consultants or professionals that are in environments and mixed environments and hybrid environments. So I would like to embrace on that early first, but it's not currently being worked on, to answer your question.
To expand on Jason's point, we believe, as VMware, we believe VMware technologies are good enough for everything you need. So hopefully you can go back and convince your IT environment to only support VMware.
Doesn't mean I don't have a lot of demand and that I wouldn't be very interested in providing a solution for that. So back in the room.
Yes, kind of skimmed over the graphics. When are you planning to support the native graphic card that's in the Workstation?
The PCI pass-through. People love to ask that. We actually are not. We think our graphics stack is actually getting better and better to the point where it's sufficiently capable of providing applications and supporting applications that you need. We work very closely with the graphics vendors. We are trying to enhance our graphics stack. Yes, we know it's not perfect, and there are some APIs that we may not support initially, CUDA, et cetera, but we are working on towards that and improving our stack. It comes up regularly. The issue with providing PCI pass-through is portability of the VM. If we enable you to do something like that, your VM then cannot move to any machine, and you kind of lose that major advantage. You also lose functions like suspend and snapshotting capabilities because it requires the drivers for that specific card to be available in the guest. So if you move to a machine that has a similar but not identical card that requires a different driver, your VM is going to be a pain to start up and run. So that's one of the reasons why we're not anxiously working towards it, but it gets asked all the time and something we will continue to consider. Other questions? And I'll try to repeat the question more often. Yes?
If I have multiple snapshots,
So the question was, if I have multiple user snapshots, will I be able to export those to the ESX server as well? That's our goal.
Any more? Yes. Sorry, I can't hear you. So not through our UI. In order to move the machine back from VC to Workstation, you can use like the OVF tool, export an OVF and import an OVF. It is not a feature we've got in the UI currently. We're focusing on initially getting you into the cloud. So, anything else? Other questions? All right, we'll let you guys go. We'll be up here if you want to come up and ask questions. Thank you very much.